Secondary data analysis can include internal data that you've collected within your organization previously, and now you're using it for this research problem, or it can be external data. So in this video, we're going to look at some sources of external data. Now, when we talk about external data, we can get that information from commercial data sources, so we can pay for that information. We can get it from government and non-government entities. We can get it through search engines. We can get it from marketing research aggregators. So let's just start with marketing research aggregators. And it doesn't have to be marketing research, but there are research aggregators for different disciplines. So a research aggregator is a company that acquires catalogs. So they collect, they itemize the list, they can reformat, they can segment, and they can resell reports. So in other words, they're pulling all this information together, but it is information that has already been published. And what they're doing is making it accessible, pulling it all together in a location for you. So a company that acquires catalogs, reformats, segments, and resells reports that have been already published. So let's take a look at some marketing research aggregators. So here's some examples of marketing research aggregators: Mintel, Data Monitor, Compass, Forrester, ClickZstats, eMarketer, and marketingresearch.com. So I encourage you, pause the video, Google some of these, and see what you can find. So just show you a couple. So Mintel is a marketing research aggregator. So it's looking at information to help you in terms of new products, marketing expansion, understanding your competitors. Compass here, this one is based on B2B, so business to business. If you're a company that sells to other companies, then this is where you would find information about industry trends and information. It doesn't have to be marketing or related. This one, for example, is, I really should shift this stuff over here. You can't quite see it, huh? I think I might have my screen moved over. There we go. Sorry about that. I must have bumped something. So in this particular one here, this one is related to pharmaceutical data. So if you're looking for information about what is happening in related to drug effectiveness and customer or what drugs are applicable to different individuals, different groups, that's what you would find here. So there are a number of different marketing research and just research in general aggregators who pull this information together. So check out different ones. They have different themes, different types of research information that they pull together. So we've just looked here at a couple examples of them. Other commercial data sources where you're paying information for others who have done research. So a research aggregator pulls together publicly published information. Commercial data sources do their own research and will sell the findings to you. So for example, you can get information about industry trends from AC Nielsen, Polk Canada. You can get demographic information from Environics Analytics. We talked in a previous video about Environics Analytics. You can get information about consumer attitudes. We have public opinion polls, right? We're often looking for how our politicians are rating on public opinion polls, and you can find that from Pollara and Compass and Ipsos and here in Canada. We want information about consumption, purchasing behavior. There are organizations for that as well. If you want information related to advertising and how much it costs for ads, who's viewing what ads, who's viewing what TV shows, so you know whether or not you want to advertise related to that TV show, you can pay these organizations for information that they have collected. So we can have commercial data sources for our secondary data. Other sources of external data include newspapers, periodicals, journals, databases. So for example, you may have access through an academic institution a number of databases. And so I will just, let's see here. So for example, Red Deer Polytechnic, if you have access to their library, here's databases here. This is a health database on this particular one. And then we can get information related to articles published by American Psychology Association. We can get information on literature. So there's quite a number of databases that would provide you information depending on what it is, the topic that you're researching. So this one here is from the Theological Library Association related to religion. So all kinds of different databases where information has been collected for another purpose that might be relevant to your research project. You can get information from news websites, from news groups and blogs, and some examples of some blogs are here. These are the new, let's go back. Here's some blogs. So for example, if you want to know about what people who are millennials are buying, this YPulse here will tell you about what the younger generations are buying and doing. Others here, these blogs give advice on marketing and strategies for your organizations. So here you can find blogs that will provide you information. So that counts as secondary data. Websites and news groups. This is organizations that aggregate news information. Advertising Ad Age magazine. That one is great if you're willing to pay for it to get information about like Super Bowl commercials and how much they cost and what target markets they're reaching. CEO Express, if you go to this one, pulls all the different journals and newspapers that would be relevant to a CEO. So let's just go here, CEO Express. So when you go here, it is just a list of links to all different news topics and organizations that a CEO might care about, whether it's tech or health or retail, natural gas, depending on what your area is, international business, linking you to all kinds of information that a CEO or a lead in your organization might want to stay up to date as to. So we can collect information from other sources. These are news sources, CBC. You can look back at old newspapers, Wall Street Journal. The Globe and Mail has an area where it provides information specific to small business operations. So you can see that we can collect news information here. So we have news websites, news groups, blogs. We talked about databases. There are other databases you might find through your academic institutions. For example, if you are wanting to understand the competition or you're looking at a new country that you might want to do business in, you can get information, country reports, industry reports. A SWOT analysis looks at the strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats that a particular business or organization might encounter. We can see, for example, if we do a SWOT analysis here, we can see Prudential Financial, that company, here's a SWOT for them, Marathon Oil. And so what we see is that others have analyzed what is impacting these big companies, typically because they're publicly traded. And so as an investor, you might want to know how well they are performing. So you can go into databases like Business Source Complete, which you can access through academic institutions, or you can pay for your own subscription to get that information. So secondary data from an external source to help inform decisions for the organization. So this one here, if you're looking for industry analysis, you're looking for analysis of different countries and what's happening, or individual organizations, you can find that through this Business Source Complete. Okay, here. Now, you might want to go instead to government sources, so we could collect information from government sources. And so we can get statistical information. So we can go to StatsCan, for example, and find out the population of Canada, we can find the current unemployment rate, inflation. We can go to Fred. Fred is the US version of StatsCan. So somewhere I have Fred. So Fred is the Financial Reserve economic database. And so we can see, for example, the amount of inflation in the US and when it has peaked, when it has fallen. So you can collect economic data from these statistical sources. And when it comes to that statistical source, every country has one. So for example, if you're in Ireland, there's the Central Statistics Office of Ireland. Will give you information about inflation, unemployment, population within Ireland. So you can look for the one specific to your country. In the US, there's also more different sources. They have the Bureau of Labor Statistics that looks at labor data, and the Bureau of Economic Analysis that looks at businesses and economic growth, and then the Census Bureau, which when the US conducts a census, it collects additional information. For example, you want information about what religions that people are in the US, then they collect that information right on surveys. One I've used from the Bureau of Labor Statistics is the American Time Use Survey. So BLS.gov_TUS. When I was doing my master's dissertation in economics, I used the American Time Use Survey to see how much time households spend on housework. One of my previous lives, I was a forensic economist looking at if someone is injured in a car accident and can no longer work and provide for their family, they might sue the person who injured them in the car accident to try to regain that money that they lost from that work in order to invest it and pull out each year to compensate for that lost income. Well, if there's a wrongful death and someone can no longer contribute to their household, so you can no longer watch the kids, take them to school, mow the lawn because of injury or death, then in that lawsuit, you would be asking for compensation to hire someone else to fulfill those duties. And so how much time does the particular individual spend on housework each week? What type of duties do they perform? And so that American Time Use Survey looks at how much time Americans spend doing different activities, whether that is working or whether that is taking the kids to school, and breaks it all down. So using that analysis, I didn't collect it. That's not the original purpose, was to help in terms of determining replacement value for lost household services. But then I could use that to generate models for testifying in court to help determine how much the award should be in a wrongful death or injury case. All right, so we're looking at data collected for other purposes. There is data that's being collected by towns and provinces. So there was a bunch of money given out across Canada to make available data related to municipalities. And so, for example, if you go to Open Calgary, you can find information that the city of Calgary collects, births and deaths, information about interprovincial migration, traffic flow, all kinds of information. You'll find a similar website for Edmonton, for Red Deer, and so all of this information here being publicly available, which means I could, if I have a research question related to residential growth, I could pull this data and analyze it for my own purposes. When it comes to the US, there is a website called data.gov. And so any research projects that are funded through US federal grants, the data gets posted here, and you can pull this data and analyze it for your own purposes. Secondary data analysis. That could be crime data. That could be information about failure of banks, supply chain. There's information about obesity, COVID-19. I've sifted through here. There's lots of different topics. Everything from counting birds to healthcare to food production, coastal flooding, all different disciplines. You'll probably find some data related to it that you can then pull and analyze. So secondary data analysis. You can get information from governments themselves. So you can get, for example, budget information from the government of Canada, from the US. You can get information specific to countries and what's happening in places like the CIA World Factbook. You can also get information from non-government sources like the World Bank, United Nations, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the World Economic Forum. All of these sites have data. And so you can go and pull the information and analyze it for your purposes, even though it was collected for a different purpose. Okay? So secondary data analysis is the collection of data by someone else or by you for a different purpose or at a different time, and then using that to solve your current research problem. You can also find repositories of data. The Economic and Social Research Council in the UK collects information, the Central Archive for Empirical Social Research, the Inter-University Consortium for Political and Social Research. So these will give you more data related to more of the social sciences, depending on what your area that you are collecting information is. So there's a lot of data out there, and all of this, if you're using data that someone else collected or you collected for a different purpose, we have secondary data.